everybody, and welcome back to a new vlog. I hope you're doing really well. And I've just been to, not Pilates, shape class. The studio that I go to, they do like Pilates, they do like kind of like circuit training, sort of like a HIIT style classes, and then they have shape, which is like a weights-based kind of, it is a circuit, but there's no cardio involved. It's more about like lifting a little bit heavier than you normally would in Pilates, and I actually really like it. I really like strength training. I like going to a class though, because it's like I don't want to think about what I am doing. Like I don't want to create a program. I just want someone else to tell me what to do. And so yeah, we did that this morning, and the instructor really woke up and chose violence because everything had to be done with like 2-kilo ankle weights as well. So you're doing like all the normal like deadlifts, split squats. I'm trying to remember what else there was, but you're doing, and like banded like kickbacks on your knees, but you have to do all of it with ankle weights on. So that was brutal. Something else that happened yesterday, so the shape classes are like one night and then one morning, and then like one they do upper body and the other they do lower body, so that you get like both sides of your body, both ends. And I went yesterday afternoon, it was like the arm one. And as I was driving home, I saw somebody with the license plate arm day. And I was like, this feels very perfect. But also like, who goes out there and they're like, you know what? I just love training arms so much that I want it to be my number plate. So that was funny. And then when I was driving, like, I feel like one of my signs, like when I'm asking for a sign, or if I'm like, am I in flow? Like, is I see a lot of license plates that just say yes, like yes, and then whatever the numbers are, but it's not like custom plates. They're just like normal license plates that say yes. So I always get really excited when I see them. And I saw one of those this morning. So yeah, I don't know how we got onto this tangent talking about number plates, but today I'm gonna go and get some new plants. So what happened is, I had, if you watched the last vlog, or no, maybe the vlog before that, where I was planting up the rose and I'd ordered the pot and the pot hadn't come, so I went to Bunnings and got like a temporary pot. And when I had that pot on the balcony, it's just way too big for the space. And also once it was filled with like soil, I don't think I would have been able to move it. And as I'm renting this apartment, I would like to be able to move things like out of it with a little bit more ease. Not moving anytime soon, but it's just something like when you've moved as many times as I have, it's definitely something you keep in mind. You're like, how easy will it be to move this thing? Like when I moved from Toronto to Australia, I was like, that's it. I'm becoming a minimalist. I'm never buying anything ever again, because I lived in that apartment for 2 years, not 2 months. And I'd never moved in my life before that. And I think because the apartment had like such good storage, it would look like you didn't have a lot of stuff. Because I was like, oh, we just have like the couch and my bed and my desk and like my clothes. Oh no, there was so much stuff stored in like the cupboards and like the multiple cupboards, and like, yeah, I mean, that apartment had very good storage, obviously, which was appreciated, but when you went to move everything, it was not fun. So, and then like when I moved to Australia, like I have moved probably like, it's got to be close to 20 times since I've lived here. And this is the longest I've ever lived in one like house since I've moved here. And I've been here for, well, I was looking on the vlogs, and the last vlogs that I posted was in the previous place I lived in. So that was like 2.5 years ago. So I guess I've lived here for 2.5 years. That is the longest I have lived in one place since I moved to Australia, which is crazy to me. So yeah, where was I going with that? The pot. The pot was too big. I didn't want to have to figure out how to move that. And also like the balcony, I felt like the ratio of the size of it to the balcony was just off. Like as soon as it was on the balcony, you're like, well, there's nowhere for me to stand now because this pot is just taking the entire thing. And so I'm gonna go to the garden center and return the pot, see what else I can find. And yeah, I feel like it's always dangerous going to the garden center because you're like, there's so many things in here that I could also get. So I think it's like one of those things where it's like you don't go to the garden center like and tell it what you want. Like the garden center tells you what you want. So anyways, let's get going. Okay, welcome to the garden center. This is my absolute favorite section of Bunnings for obvious reasons. So the tropical plants are looking super cute, but I have spotted the hydrangeas behind them. Oh my God, I would love to have hydrangeas, but I don't think they would cut it on the balcony. And like with the climate, I just feel like I would be setting myself up for failure. So we obviously are having a look at all the other plants. This was the Nemesia that I impulse bought. It comes in like coconut ice scent. I don't want to say flavor, but it smells good enough to eat. And the vanilla slice, which I did end up getting. Now we're getting into my kind of aisles. The begonias are looking amazing. I came because I wanted to get some cute flowers, and I have like a white and purple and green scheme going on the balcony. So I like to pick kind of cottage style plants that are drought resistant, good with lots of sun, and that's usually what I look for when I'm picking plants for the balcony. Obviously, we love the lavender section, but I'm still waiting for my lavender to bloom. It's been 2 years. Maybe this year is the year. Apparently it does take a while to establish itself, so that's what I'm telling myself. I'm telling myself that it just needs to get to the right age, and then hopefully we're going to get some lavender blooms. A geranium, or is it a pelargonium? Nobody really knows. These are beautiful. Yeah, just love the look of them. Some more lavender. There was lots to look at, and there was no one there, which was really nice. I really like going like early in the morning because, yeah, it's not so crowded. The good old herb section. I did think about growing tomatoes this year. I'm still unsure. I feel like the birds try and eat everything that I grow on the balcony. So, yes, time to go pay for these. Okay, so here is my gardening haul. So this was a little bit of an impulse buy. I have never heard of Nemesia? No idea. But when they say it smells like vanilla slice, it literally smells exactly like a vanilla slice. Like I walked by the end of the aisle and I got a whiff of this and was like, oh my God, that is coming home with me. I think it'll do well on the balcony because it likes full sun, drain soil, good for pots. Those are all the things I kind of look for on the balcony. And like things that are like drought resistant, and it honestly smells amazing. Like I wish you could smell this. So good. And like my garden scheme is like white, green, little bit of purple. So these marigolds, actually, marigolds are really good if you're like companion planting them with tomatoes. I don't have any tomatoes in the garden right now, but I know this is like, I don't like how bright some marigolds are. I know that controversial. Some people are going to be like, it's a flower. It's supposed to be that color. But I like a really tight color scheme when it comes to the garden bed. And so these are a vanilla marigold. Apparently the theme of today was vanilla. A vanilla marigold. And they're kind of like this beautiful, like creamy, whitish, yellow, yeah, I think that'll look really cute. I'm gonna put one in a pot and then the rest I think I'm gonna chuck them in the bed and see how they go, just to like fill in the gaps. So yeah, and then these are Bacopa, the little white one at the back here. I wanted to put that into a pot, and the little purple ones, I'm thinking I'm gonna put them around, I think it's called like Angelonia, something like that, that's in one of the pots. I'm gonna underplant it with this, and I think that'll look really cute because that's kind of, it's like a pinky purple magenta, almost looks like a foxglove, but it's not. So I think underplanting it with this will be really cute. So yeah, gardening haul. Let's go. of the day is these. The trousers are from Holland Cooper. The shirt is Pre-Loved Ralph Lauren, and my blue blockers are also Ralph Lauren. And as usual, the watch is from YCL, and the little loafers, the horsebit loafers, are actually a Kmart find. Hello, everybody. So it's the next day. I guess as you would have seen, I potted everything up, and I feel like some things are gonna need to get a little bit rearranged in some of their pots because they're sort of like running out of space. And I think sometimes I'm like, okay, there is enough pots on the balcony. The thing about like gardening on the balcony is I feel like there's some stuff that makes it like a little bit different, I guess, than if you have like an actual backyard or you have a little bit more space. But at the same time, it's like I don't think that means that you should like not try and garden if you have a small space. Like some of the things I've sort of figured out like on my gardening journey is and maybe if you're like a seasoned gardener, this will sound really obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me, and I definitely had to do a lot of trial and error. So I'm just gonna share with you like what I learned. And so obviously like smaller pots are gonna need to be watered more, and especially on your balcony if you are like growing on a balcony or in a smaller space or in pots, like especially if you live like somewhere hot like I do in Australia, you're gonna like a smaller pot is gonna go through its like resources quicker, so like you're gonna have to water it more often. If it's like in a really sunny spot that does get a lot of sun, some plants really don't like that because it's almost like they're getting too hot and they don't have enough of like, I guess like a pot that will stay cool, and then their roots get really hot. Like I tried lavender in pots so many times, they all died. I tried a few other things in pots that were supposed to do well with the heat and that were supposed to be drought resistant. They did not like being in the pots. I put them in the bed and they're pretty happy now. One of the ones was, I don't know how you pronounce it, Gara, or sometimes called like butterfly plant. So it kind of looks like a grass, but it has like these like little flowers on the end of like the long bits, and they look like little butterflies, and it's really happy in the bed now. So I think the things to think about, like if you are thinking about balcony gardening, is like one, which way does your balcony face? Like, are you going to be getting the morning sun, the afternoon sun? Are you facing north or south? Like that really is going to tell you like what plants you're going to be able to grow. And because like for me, my balcony faces west, so in the summer it is just blasted with afternoon sun, and that it's really warm, and some plants like that and some plants do not like that. So yeah, like checking the labels, seeing what does well with a lot of sun. Even some things I found that they said like this does well with lots of sun, it was still too much for them. But I mean, the only way you find out is by giving it a go. Like sometimes when I went on like the Mount Tambourine Edible Garden Trail a few weeks ago, and one thing that I saw in almost every single garden, the people were like, yeah, you're not supposed to grow this thing at this time of the year, but we're trying it anyways. Or yeah, this thing isn't supposed to do well here, but we're just giving it a go and seeing what happens. And I think that's a really good attitude to have when you're gardening. Like, yeah, just give it a shot, but also at the same time, like choose with intention. Like don't choose like a plant that like doesn't like getting super hot if you live in a hot climate, or if like, yeah, I think sometimes in like colder climates people seem to have a bit better luck growing some things that prefer the warmer climate, but it's all about just trial and error. But it's like, for example, I love hydrangeas, but like I'm never gonna try and grow them in my space because I think they would hate it here. And so yeah, it's kind of like pick your battles. But the thing I found is like, obviously like smaller pot, it's gonna dry out quicker. You will probably have to transplant those things on, which when I learned that, I was really disappointed because I was like, I Oh, my battery is flashing. And so what was I saying? Yeah, the things you grow in, if the pots are smaller, you're probably gonna have to plant them on into something bigger, which is something I discovered with the herbs and stuff. Like, yes, they look really beautiful and cute in the pots, but they will grow to a point where you need to put them into something bigger because they get root bound, or there's just not enough space in there for them. So yeah, I guess the lesson I learned is like buy bigger pots from the get-go, like bigger than what you think you need so that your plants can grow into them. Or there is some stuff that like it seems to do better in like a small pot. Say for example, like ferns, found they do okay in like a smaller pot, or like the ivy does quite well in a smaller pot, or I think it's a ficus I have. It also does good in a smaller pot. So yeah, a bit of trial and error. And I guess the other thing that I would know is like know your zone. Like I live in zone 11A, and so that's subtropical. So yeah, sometimes I will just go and ask ChatGPT like, will this thing work in zone 11A? Will this thing work? And it's actually really helpful for making sure that you're not just like buying stuff that is not going to work well where you live, but then also knowing that it's like even within one area, it's like you can have little almost microclimates. Because the thing I found is because my balcony is west facing and it is so hot in the summer, only the strong survive. But even when I went to Mount Tamborine, which is only like an hour drive, and it kind of, because they're up on the mountain, it faces east, so it's getting the morning sun, and then the sun goes up and over the mountain, so they're not getting blasted by like that really hot afternoon sun. And I noticed, and it's a little bit colder up there too, like sometimes in the winter it can be like 6 degrees colder, which is quite a lot for something that's only an hour away. And yeah, like they had stuff growing there that like I had tried many times to grow that. It was not growing here because it was just too hot and because of the way the sun was. So yeah, I think those are all things that are really, really important to take note of. But that said, some of the easy things to start with, I think, are like just herbs. And if you're going to plant multiple herbs in a pot, make sure you are planting herbs that have similar water needs. Because some plants like oregano and thyme, that they don't need as much water, they are not going to be happy if you plant them with something that does like having more water, like parsley or something. So yeah, making sure when you buy, like being intentional about where you place things. I found this also in like the herbaceous bed that I've got on the balcony. It had to go through many an iteration of me figuring out like, oh, I can't plant things that are together. Like one thing wants a lot of water, one thing doesn't want as much water. I can't have those two things next to each other. Like the bed in the iteration that it is now is like drought resistant, things that do well with lots of sun, things that do well with like, they don't need a lot of water. So like lavender and erigeron, which is like one of my absolute favorites. And honestly, like the more you ignore it, the happier it is. It's pretty much happy when you do nothing to it. There's some mint in there. There is, I think it's called euphorbium. There's like a lemon verbena, there's some thyme, there's some oregano, there's the gaura. Like all those things are quite drought resistant. They don't like a ton of water, and they like a lot of sun. So it's thriving in a way that it's never thrived before. So it's just, yeah, I guess it's a bit of a learning and experiment, but I guess those are things that I wish I had known when I first started gardening, and hopefully they can be helpful for you. And even if you just want to dip a toe in, like growing microgreens is so easy and it's so rewarding, and microgreens are so good for you because it's like when the plant has it's put all its energy into like coming out of the seed and coming out of the soil, and it has all of like everything it needs to go and become like that big plant, but it's really small. So it's like instead of having to eat like a whole huge leaf of kale, you're getting all of these micronutrients packed into this little tiny thing, and you can just sprinkle it on your food. It's so easy to grow. You get to harvest it within like a week. It makes you feel like you're a good gardener, essentially, which is always really rewarding. And I always think like when it comes to food, it's like instead of trying to restrict and being like, oh, my nail polish is coming off. Instead of like restricting what you're eating and being like, oh, I'm gonna eat less of this and less of this, I always think it's like, how can you crowd out like your diet with things that are really good for you? Like how can you be like, instead of being like, I'm gonna eat less of this. Be like, I want to focus on adding more of this, like more veggies, more this, more that. So yeah, or even sprouting is a really good way of like adding extra nutrients to your food. And especially if like, because like obviously I would love to eat everything organic, but it's just like budget wise doesn't really make sense right now. So I think even having like little bits of stuff that you grow at home, you know that like it's organic as long as you're not spraying it with pesticides. And I think there's just something so satisfying about that. So yeah, hopefully like even if you take this as inspiration and just start like a little pot of something, it really is so satisfying growing things and like having a living thing with you. And if you're like, I don't know, Kim, like I kill everything, it's like, don't stress. I was the same way. Like up until I decided I was gonna get better at gardening, like maybe like 2, 3 years ago, I killed every plant that I owned. Like every single plant. I killed a cactus. How do you kill a cactus? I don't know. I did it. And it's like people say that, and I'm like, well, you're just forgetting that like gardening is a skill like everything else. Like the whole like having a green thumb, it's like, well, that comes from practice. Like everything else in life. Like nobody is good at anything. You have to make the mistakes. Like you can read all the gardening books in the world and still like nothing is going to beat like you just throwing stuff in the dirt, seeing how it goes, seeing how like getting to know the cycles of nature where you live, seeing how what does well, what doesn't do well. And it really like puts you back in touch with nature in a way that I feel like we are very disconnected from in the world that we live in. Like we are so out of touch with the seasons. Like we have like I just, and especially when you live in a city, like I think we're just so disconnected from like the cycles and rhythm of nature. And when you start to grow things and you see like what it looks like say for example the herbaceous like border that I've got, it's like seeing what does it do in winter. Oh, it's in winter, so it's like everything is still green, but it's like not growing in the crazy way that it was in summer where I was constantly like cutting things back. And like in summer, like seeing like wow, it just goes wild and it's like so vibrant and green with life. And I think there's something really magical about that. And as someone who is can be kind of an impatient person, I think it's been so good because it's like you can't force a garden to grow any quicker than what it's growing. Like nature moves at its own pace. And I think that's such an important lesson for like us to learn too, because it's like we as humans seem to think that we need to be productive 24/7. How can we pack more things into less time? How can we be more productive? How can we habit stack every fucking thing possible? Not supposed to say that on YouTube, but it's like, how can you just maximize your productivity 24/7, 365? And it's like, that is insane. Like, unchecked growth just doesn't work. Like, nothing in nature grows the same way. Like, everything goes in its seasons, and it's like, we're part of nature too, but we seem to have forgotten that. And I think that's one of the nice things about reconnecting with nature. And even if it's like I live in an apartment, I live in a city, like, yeah, it's a smaller city, but it's still a city. And it's like reconnecting to nature in that way has been really magical. And like the magic of like seeing how your plants grow and evolve and change over time, and how they just grow at their own rate. Like you give them the conditions to survive in and to thrive in and succeed, and then they're just going to do what they need to do, but it's going to happen on their schedule. Like you're not going to force them. And I think that's, yeah, I don't know, something about it was really powerful. So
So I thought we could do a little cook along. I am making a Tuscan like veggie bean soup that came from Dinnerly. This is not sponsored, but I'll leave my link where I can give 10 people boxes for free. And yeah, the link will have the terms and conditions, but if you've ever wanted to give it a try or you just want a box of free veggies for the week, you can absolutely check that out in the link below. So, first, we've got our carrots. There's 2 carrots in here, and you chop them up to like a size that you would like in a soup. I always do like half and then thirds lengthways and then just chop them up really small. So that's what we're doing here. Dinnerly, it gives you all the things you need for the most part. Like, it doesn't give you like olive oil or anything like that, but everything else comes and then you just have to put it together. It has been so helpful while I have been at university because honestly, like cooking for one person can be hard sometimes because you don't want huge batches of everything. You want, like, I like variety, and this way it just takes away that mental load of having to think, like, what am I gonna have for dinner? And it stops me from ordering from Uber Eats all the time. And it makes you like do healthier choices because you're the one picking. They always have lots on there, lots of yummy stuff that usually comes together in 20 to 30 minutes. So yeah, I'm a really big fan and I've been using them for probably like 2 years now. So yeah, if you are bored of what you're eating or you just are tired of like meal planning or meal prepping, I just think it's such an easy way to like make sure you're getting like lots of healthy veggies that are fresh, but like you don't have to think about what you're going to make. And for me, that is like sometimes the hardest part. So the carrots are chopped. I think I am putting some oil in the pot right now to heat up. And then those are going to go in. In a little bit, you'll see I forgot the onion, which is still in the fridge, but the onion is also supposed to get diced up. And you have your can of beans, and you are going to drain the beans and rinse them. I used to be vegan, and every time I like drain a can of beans, I like think about how like people use the liquid aquafaba is what it's called to make like egg whites, and it actually does do a pretty good job. But sometimes I just think that water is kind of gross. I don't know. No shade to the vegans. It does work really well. It's kind of amazing, but yeah, no, I think I prefer eating farm raised organic eggs now. So your carrot is going to go into your pot. Your onion is also going to go into your pot, and ideally you should have put the onion in first. And so we're going to smash up a couple cloves of garlic to also go in there. I don't know if you guys know this, but like before when I made like stir fries or whatever, I would always put like the garlic in with the onion, and every single time it would end up burnt. And it only took me until like this year to realize that like actually like the garlic is not one of the last things you should be putting it in, but if you're gonna sweat the onions, like wait till those are done because the garlic cooks really quick. And guess what? No more burnt garlic. So if you also had that same problem, well, just wait till the last minute to put your garlic in. And I don't mean like right before you serve it. I mean like once the things that take the longest, like onions or carrots, have kind of got a head start, then put your garlic in. I usually add it at the same time. If I add any like chicken or beef, I add it at the same time as that, and I find that that stops it from burning. So yeah, that's a little fun cooking tip. If it also took you till now to figure that out, I don't know why nobody talks about that more. I feel like cookbooks are always like, yeah, throw them in together. And this is my favorite little garlic smashing device. I personally hate mincing garlic. I just find it gets really bitty and it gets everywhere and your fingers smell really bad. This thing is so good. You get to like smash out some aggression on your cutting board and your garlic, and I just kind of like mush it into a paste to get it all the way to go through. And then, yeah, as you can see, I left it. The carrots are doing their thing in the pot. Everything is getting nice and cooked. White enamel. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. Yes, it looks good from the outside. It is so hard to keep clean. If I was to choose another color, I would pick something different. But oh well. It is a kitchen that is used. It is not a show kitchen, so we're just giving that a mix. And I keep looking at the camera here because like the little video thing where you can see where you're filming, it kept going dark for some reason. So I kept checking to make sure, like, was the camera on? Was it recording what I was doing? And I'm checking the instructions on my phone through the Dinnerly app just to make sure. And this is when I realized I forgot the onion because I was looking in the pot and I was like, that seems very, very empty. And there was a reason for that. It was because I forgot to put the onion. So, yes, now we're giving the onion a chop. And I wear contact lenses, and it seems to be like they work almost as a protective layer against chopping onions. I don't know if, do you find that? Let me know in the comments below if you also wear contact lenses and you find that like your eyes are like fine with onions. It's like a protective layer or something, because I don't cry when, like, my eyes just aren't affected by them at all, and they definitely used to be before. So I think the contacts act like a little shield, if you will. Yeah, so giving the onions a good old chop. You don't have to worry about it being too perfect. It's just going in a soup. I like it looking a little bit rustic. You just want it to be kind of even so it like cooks evenly. And I do try and do them pretty thin because I just find it like cooks them down a little bit faster. So yeah, giving the onions a little chop, moving my garlic over because it's in the way. Onions go in. And also, guys, did you know that using plastic cutting boards puts like microplastics in your food? That's something I figured out or I heard recently, and it gives me the ick. Like, it makes me feel really icky inside, and I cut everything on a wooden board with the exception of like chicken and stuff because I want to be able to clean it. But I've been looking into other options of like what I can use that's not plastic, but I can sanitize it, like for cutting meat and stuff on, because I don't want salmonella, but I also don't want microplastics in my food. So yes, the app is giving me the instructions. I've prepared a bone broth with like these, the bone broth used to come in jars. Now it comes in these little squeezy sachets, which I mean is way more convenient because with the glass jar, it made such a mess. Every time you would go to get like the bone broth concentrate out, it would just get all over everything. So these sachets are a lot more convenient, but I don't know, guys, plastic. Like, I'm like, do we really want more plastic in our food? I don't know. Anyways, so the recipe doesn't call for using bone broth. They just say water and they give you like a herb mix. But I think it's nice to add bone broth to recipes when you can because like the collagen and other micronutrients that are just so good for you that are in bone broth. And yeah, so like I add that sort of, it's kind of a paste. It's like a very concentrated version and you can add it to water, but I also put it in rice and that's pretty much it. But like I like to put it in where I can into things that I'm cooking just for a little extra nutrient boost because who doesn't want to have more collagen? And so here we're going to have a look at how everything is going. I've added the herb mix, I've added the beans and given it like a big old stir. Next, I think we are going to add in the tomato paste, and that's one of the other things I really like about Dinnerly is that you just get the amount of the ingredient you need because like when you're cooking for one, it kind of can be really inconvenient to have to keep buying all these bottles of different sauces and things and then you like never use it again. So even if you're just cooking for like more than one, it's kind of nice to have like pre-portioned ingredient bits so you're not wasting stuff. Like stuff doesn't just sit in the cupboard. And yeah, I just think it's like it makes life so much easier. So yep, throwing everything out. And now I think what happens next is we give everything a good mix and then you pour in the bone broth and then you leave it to simmer for 15 minutes. I leave the lid off because I want it to like thicken and reduce a little bit, so I want it to evaporate. And Yep, the bone broth is going in. I'm giving it a little stir because sometimes the stuff gets stuck to the bottom, and that goes in. As you can see, the stuff is stuck to the bottom, but that's okay. We've got our trusty little silicone spatula that's going to get that out for us. And now we're just going to mix everything up together, and you're going to simmer it, bring it up to the boil, and then you're going to simmer it for 15 minutes. As you can see, this is what it looks like at the moment. It is very hearty looking. It's not the most aesthetic meal. I've added the kale. Chopped kale comes for it as well. And I had a can of corn. So here's the finished product. It was delicious.
Okay, well, that's it from me for today. Thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed the vlog, feel free to leave a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!